Hey everybody, it's Ziz here, and today we're asking, why play ArcheAge? Now there's lots of MMOs you could spend your time on and go out and play, so what makes ArcheAge different? What makes it worth your time to play? And really, in my opinion, it all comes down to one thing, and that's options. There are a ton of options in ArcheAge, and I'm going to go over a lot of them. I'm going to show you in game what I'm talking about. I'm going to compare them to other MMOs. I'm going to touch on the free-to-play aspect as well, and hopefully by the end of this video I'll be able to help you answer whether or not ArcheAge is worth your time or not. Once you're in game, the first thing you're going to notice is you can make your character anything you want. There are no restrictions. Not restrictions on race, on whether you're male or female. It doesn't matter. You can be anything you want to be in the game. Now, there are 10 different classes that you can pick from. Things like Battle Rage and Shadow Player or Oromancy. There's 10 options, and you get to pick 3 of them at any time. And any combination of these 3 of the 10 gives you your class, and there's 120 different combinations. Now, a couple really awesome things about this is you can pick anything you want. There's nothing saying if you pick one you can't pick another, and you can change at any time you want. You just go to the skill manager, you switch it out, costs a little bit of gold, but other than that, there's not a problem. And you can use any 3 that you want. Now sure, some of them won't be as optimal as min-max as other classes will be, but overall you can really almost do anything you want and pick any sort of skills, and if you're good enough and you know how to play, you can really do anything you want. If you want to be a heavy armor wearing melee mage, you can do that. If you want to be a dual wielding, great axe assassin, you can do that. So there's so many options. It's really nice that you only have to have one character. Now, you could make another character if you wanted to be a different race or if you wanted to play East or West, because there's 2 different sides. But a great thing for me is that I've made one character, I've got to level 50, and if I decide to want to be something else, I can just switch it out, level up those skills, and I'm all set. I don't have to make another class. I don't have to grind all the way to 50 again, which for people like me who are ultaholics and re-roll every other 10 minutes, this is really great. And honestly, this is probably the fastest I've ever got to max level in an MMO, because I didn't have to worry about changing my class. Ooh, I like what that other person is doing, I want to play that. I don't have to worry about that. So that's really awesome, and I love that aspect about this game. How many options you have of what class you want to play. On top of that, you can play with any sort of armor or weapons that you want. If you want to use a shield as a caster, go ahead and do it. If you want to use a 2-handed weapon as an assassin, like I said, you can do that as well. You can mix and match however you want. And on top of that, each weapon has like a special hidden proc. Right? Some of them will cause your target to bleed. Some of them might stun your opponent. Some of them may make it so you parry whenever you're hit. And this adds a whole new layer. When there's more depth to a game, when there's more options and more going on, then that adds more things you can do. There's more options to play with. Other games, it doesn't matter. If you're using a sword or an axe or a mace, it doesn't really make a difference. And in ArcheAge, it does make a difference. And so there's more options all the way around. And again, the great thing is you can do whatever you want at any time. I'm level 50 right now, and if I decide I want to be a caster, all I'd have to do is put on the caster skills, and I just have to go out there and level them up. I'd have to grind some mobs or do some crafting or whatever it is, but it doesn't matter. Once you get to level 50, you can always switch out your skills. And talking about level 50 and endgame, this is really where a lot of the options in the game open up. There are so many things you can do. Now, in general, I'll just say in general, really the way I think about games, especially MMOs, is once you get to endgame, there's kind of 2 things that you do. You're either grinding PvE dungeons and raids, right? You do this dungeon over and over and over until you get enough gear, and then you do this dungeon over and over and over until you get enough gear, and then you do this one over and over and over, right? And then you do raids, blah, blah, blah. So that's all you're doing. Dungeons and raids, you're just kind of doing that path. Or maybe you're doing some PvE, right? You're doing arena over and over and over and over so you can get some better gear. When you get that gear, then you get a higher rating over and over and over. Maybe you're doing some battlegrounds. But really, at least in my playtime, I found you're doing kind of one of those 2 things. Or, worst case scenario, games like Guild Wars 2 or arguably ESO, once you get to endgame, there's really nothing else that you need to do. You can get endgame gear really easy. You can just get it crafted. It's not very expensive. Anybody can do it. And now you're playing the game, having fun, but there's nothing you're really doing. You're just out doing whatever. So it's either one of those or one of those. Now, in ArcheAge, honestly, I feel like there's a bunch of stuff to do that I've never seen in other games. And the reason for that is gold and the economy in ArcheAge is really, really important. Like, some games, it doesn't matter how much gold you have because the best weapon is a drop. Well, in ArcheAge, you can buy drops from people, but more than that, the best gear is crafted, which takes a lot of time. You have to craft these things over and over and over, trying to get a proc to get a better item. So it all comes down to gold. And in ArcheAge, there's a lot of ways that you can make gold. A few of these, first off, you can do dungeons. Let's say you first get to level 50 at endgame. You can go do the Greater Howling Abyss. Now, that's a level 50 dungeon. It's really hard. It takes a while to do, and it's got some decent gear in there. Now, you can start with that and get some gear, or you can just disenchant the gear. You can get some gold. You can sell the stuff. You can also do arenas and 5v5s, right? And this is going to give you honor points. You can use your honor points to get some gear, like the PvP Cloak, which busts you out of CCs, which is really good. You can also buy Luna Gems, Luna Stones, which enhance your gear. They give them like little bonuses. Or if you don't want to use that stuff, you can just buy it and then sell it on the auction house. So again, making money so you can further along your character. Now, those are things that other games do as well, so nothing really different there, but it's cool the fact that you're going after gold and economy instead of just a random drop that is bound to you. So that's a nice difference. But after that, this is when the game really opens up. First off, you can start gathering. Now, that may not seem different in any other MMO. You gather as well, but a couple things that are awesome. One, when you gather, it gives you experience. So while you're leveling up, it's not a waste of your time to gather because it gives you experience. Also, this stuff is still really valuable even at endgame. When you're level 50, you still need all the same stuff you're gathering at level 20. On top of that, you can gather anywhere. There's no restriction. You don't have to have a certain amount of mining level or anything like that. If you see a mining node, you can jump on there and you can take it if you have the labor. And again, that's going to help you because you can either sell all that stuff for money or you can use it for crafting. Now, like I said, crafting is a huge part of this game. I understand other games obviously have crafting and some of that gear is okay, but hands down, by far, the best gear in the game is crafted. And not even by a little bit. We're talking like twice as good. You know, if you had the very best crafted item, it would be twice as good as like the best drop you could get. Now, it's incredibly difficult and time consuming and costs a lot of money to get a crafted weapon that's the very, very best. But the fact that it is the best adds a whole dynamic to this game you won't normally see in an MMO. Usually an MMO, crafted stuff is good, you might use it a little bit, maybe it's a stepping stone to some other stuff, but it's kind of like usually not as good as stuff that's dropped. In ArcheAge, it is its own beast. The economy and gold and what you can sell stuff for is a huge driving component in this game, which means you could be a crafter and you can sell stuff for a lot of money. A lot of money. I've gotten to level 50 and I had about 250 gold, give or take. And I've seen items on there that are selling for well over 1,000. And that's not just like, oh, someone threw that up there and it's not really worth, it's worth that much. So it shows you how much you can make. Now, everybody can't do this crafting. You have to spend time and level up your ranking to be able to do it. So you're not going to have a million people flooding the market with this really great item because it takes a lot of effort to be able to become a good enough crafter to do that. So if you want to make money, you could be a crafter and sell this stuff and make a ton of money that way, which then would help you progress your character, either by buying new gear or buying other things in the game, which would help you out. What are these other things you could buy? Well, first off, you can get a farm. Now, you start with a small farm, and then you get a large farm, and then you can get a house, and all those things cost money, not just to have, but also you have to pay taxes on them, and on top of that, if you have those farms, you need to pay to buy seeds and stuff to plant on your farm. Now, planting stuff on your farm and on your house, you can either use it for yourself, let's say you need some cotton, Or you could just put on there whatever's selling for the most. Maybe you're just going to plant a bunch of trees and cut those down and sell them on the auction house. So this is another way that you can use the resources in the game to make more money to help further your class along and progress at endgame. Now, on top of just farming just to farm and get stuff, you can use the stuff you get from your farm to make trade packs. Now, trade packs, if you don't know, are, let's say I get a bunch of trees and I cut it down and get a bunch of lumber. I can put together a pack of lumber. It's like 100 lumber, and that becomes a special pack that you make, and then you have to walk it all the way across the whole world, and you sell it to an NPC who also gives you gold or Gilda Stars. That's a separate type of currency I'll talk about in a second, but this is another way of progressing your character, building your wealth, and continuing on at endgame. Gilda Stars are kind of like gold in the fact that they're a currency, but you have to use them for other things. So for example, let's say you want to buy a house. That is going to cost you, let's say, 15 or 25 or 50 Gilda Stars to buy the blueprints. And then of course you also need gold and other things to go along with it. So this is another way of progressing your character, because the more you get, the more you can do, the more you can do, the more you can get, and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, you see? So on top of that, there's so many more things you can do. You can get gliders, so maybe you fly faster. You can get a faster horse and things like that, which is going to help you when you're running around collecting or running trade packs. You can get a donkey and level up your donkey so you move faster, so you're running trade packs faster. Then you can get a tractor where you can haul like 2 or 4 trade packs at a time. Maybe you want to buy a boat, and your boat you can hold 1 trade pack, or maybe you get the big galleon that holds 20 trade packs. Well, all that stuff costs money to get that, and so it takes money to make money, right? So there's all of these options that you can do at endgame to help make money and progress your character along. And if you don't want to do any of that, that's fine, because above that even, you can be a pirate, you can be a PvP, you can go out there and you can kill other people and you can take their trade packs. So if you don't want to spend the time farming and putting together a trade pack, that's fine. Just go kill somebody and take theirs. Now, one important thing to notice is that free-to-play is going to be a little bit different than people who are paying to play. Now, let me quickly lay out the differences. I'm going to make a whole other video going more in depth on the differences, but real quick, talking about how many options there are. Free-to-play does limit it just a little bit. When you're free-to-play, you cannot have your own farm or house. Now, that does cut down a good bit on the sort of things you can do with farming, obviously, but you can still use public farms and public nurseries. You can plant there and grow mounts and stuff on the public areas. Also, if you know someone that has a house or a farm, they can give you access to it so you can still use it. So there's an option there. Also, when you're free to play, you don't have as much labor. Labor are the points that you use to craft and mine and things like that, so you won't have as much. Now, it doesn't really reduce the amount of options you have, it just reduces how much you can do those other options, which is fine. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who maybe don't want to farm at all, or maybe they're not interested in crafting, and that, if you don't want to do those things, then honestly, free to play probably won't limit you very much at all. Now, does this make ArcheAge the best game ever? Does it mean it's perfect? Does it mean there's no problems? No, absolutely not. There's things that I wish were different, that could be better, but in general, what makes ArcheAge good? What makes it worth your time and different? And in my opinion, it all comes down to options. There are so many things you can do in this game. You're never going to be sitting there wondering, oh, what am I going to do? I have nothing to do. I'm bored of doing the same thing over and over. And that's really, really nice and really refreshing, especially coming from someone who's never played an MMO that had this many options before. So tell me what you think. Are you playing ArcheAge? Do you feel the same way? Are there a ton of options that you're enjoying? Have you not played it yet? Are you not interested? Are you interested? Let me know in the comments below. I'm interested to hear what you have to say. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, or follow on my Twitter or live stream. I'll see you out there.